Assalamualaikum. I bid to Dr. Ummu Atiyah, our beloved lecturer of International Human Rights. My name is Noor Hafiza Binti Muhammad Fodzi, and my metric number is 269750. So I will be presenting and explaining about the rights of disabled persons. Without further ado, let's start with our topic. Disability is part of being human. Almost everyone will temporarily or permanently experience disability at some point in their life. According to the World Health Organization (WHO), over 1 billion people, which is the same as 15% of the global population, currently experience disability, and this number is increasing due in part to population aging and an increase in the prevalence of non-communicable diseases. The Disability Discrimination Act (DDA) defines a disabled person as someone who has a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term adverse effect on his or her ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. In defining normal day-to-day activities, the DDA states that at least one of the following areas must be badly affected, for example, manual dexterity, physical coordination, ability to concentrate, learn to understand, and understanding of the risk of physical danger. WHO also stated that people with disability experience poorer health outcomes, have less access to education and work opportunities, and they are more likely to live in poverty than those without disability. According to Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights (OHCHR), persons with disabilities tend to face discrimination and barriers that restrict them from participating in society on an equal basis with others every day. They are commonly denied their rights to be included in the general school system and the workplace, to live independently in the community, to vote, to participate in sport and cultural activities, to enjoy social protection, to access justice, to choose medical treatment, and to enter freely into legal commitments such as buying and selling property. Therefore, there were declarations or conventions established, such as the Declaration on the Rights of Disabled Persons (1957) and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities (CRPD), where it aims to promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities, and respect for the inherent to promote respect for their inherent dignity. So as on 5 January 2022, there are 184 countries that ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and 164 countries that have signed the Convention. So, what are the rights of the disabled? Alright, in this video, I will highlight some of the rights of persons with disabilities. As mentioned in Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the disabled persons have the inherent right to respect for their human dignity. They resort to equality and discrimination where where the Convention recognizes that all persons are equal before and under the law, and it stated that states parties of the Convention shall prohibit all discrimination on the basis of disability and guarantee to persons with disabilities equal and effective legal protection against discrimination on all grounds. Next, persons with disabilities also have the freedom from exploitation, violence, and abuse, where the state parties shall take appropriate legislative, administrative, social, educational, and other measures to protect persons with disability, both within and outside home, from all forms of exploitation, violence, and abuse, including their gender-based aspects. Other than that, persons with disabilities also have the right for education. In this right, the persons with disabilities shall not be excluded from the general education system and ensure that they are not excluded from free and compulsory primary education or from secondary education. Moreover, persons with disability also have the right to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health without discrimination. The persons with disability should be provided with the same range, quality and standard of free or affordable healthcare and programs as provided to other persons, including the area of sexual and reproductive health and population-based public health programs. Next, they also have the right to work and employment where they have the opportunity to gain a living by work freely chosen or accepted in a labor market and work environment that is open, inclusive, and accessible to them. Lastly, they also have the right to participate in political and public life where they can directly and freely choose representatives, including the right and opportunity for them to vote and be elected. So, in order to apply and implement these rights, the state parties of the convention need to take actions and ensure that each of the rights of persons with disabilities are taken seriously. So, for instance, for the right of education, the state's parties shall take appropriate measures to employ teachers, including teachers with disabilities, who are qualified in sign language or braille, and to teachers including um, and to train professionals and staff who work at all levels of education. Such training shall incorporate disability awareness and the use of appropriate augmentative and alternative modes, means and forms of communication, educational techniques, and materials to support persons with disabilities. Next, for the right of health, state parties must ensure that health professionals are providing care of the same quality to persons with disabilities as to others, including on the basis of free and informed consent by inter alia, raising awareness of the human rights, dignity, autonomy, and needs of persons with disabilities through training and promulgation of ethical standards for public and private healthcare, prohibit discriminations against persons with disability in the provision of health insurance and life insurance where such insurance is permitted by national law, which shall be provided in a fair and reasonable manner. Apart from that, the states parties of the convention also need to ensure that persons with disabilities are able to exercise their labor and trade union rights on an equal basis with others. Employ persons with they also need to ensure that the, the company in the country employ persons with disabilities in the public sector, promote the employment of persons with disabilities in the private sector through appropriate policies and measures, which may include affirmative action programs, incentives, and other measures, and lastly, to ensure that reasonable accommodation is provided to persons with disabilities in the workplace. The state parties should also protect the right of persons with disabilities to vote by secret ballot in elections and public referendums without intimidation, and to stand for elections, to effectively hold office and perform all public functions at all levels of government, facilitating the use of assistive and new technologies where appropriate, guaranteeing the free expression of the will of persons with disabilities as electors, and allowing assistance and voting by a person of their own choice. So, however, despite the establishment of the declarations and conventions, the majority of the disabled persons in the world are still experiencing and face the problem or challenges of unequal treatment either in public or in workplace. So, for example, I choose Malaysia, the case that always occur in Malaysia. So, In Malaysia, the transportation and public building is a critical problem for people with disabilities. This is because the current the current public transportation system in the country is unfriendly and inaccessible to them. Moreover, for public buildings in the country, even though there are provisions in the Uniform Building Bylaws that stipulate all public buildings should provide accessible facilities for the persons with disabilities, there are there is no clear-cut enforcement on the implementation of this law, and this has resulted in many public buildings that continue to be inaccessible to people with disabilities, especially to those in wheelchairs. In to those in wheelchairs. Next, in the workplace, it can be said that a few of the persons with disabilities held professionals and managerial level positions. Most of them were either support staff, or were engaged in their own businesses, while some worked in the private sector and with non-governmental organizations (NGOs). This has made the disabled persons feel that they were unable to hold a high position in a company or organization as they are handicapped and disabled. This example shows how the government and people in the country are not taking the rights of disabled persons seriously and continue to give unequal treatment towards them. So, in conclusion, it can be said that though there was the establishment of the Convention and Declarations on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, there are still issues and challenges that are faced by them in this current period. Therefore, I hope not only the Malaysian government but also all countries that still have low awareness regarding the rights of disabled persons, so that they could take actions and make improvement in addressing the issues faced by the person with disabilities in their respective country. By doing so, I also hope that we can make this world a better place for the disabled persons. That's all from me. Thank you, and assalamualaikum.